Hey everybody, welcome to Culture Doom. This is episode 414. My name is Alex.
I'm Brendan.
How are you doing, Brendan?
I'm doing okay. I'm happy that we're on our way to summer. It's almost Memorial Day, which I think is kind of the beginning of summer.
Yeah.
It's you get your first grilling done. Although you've been grilling for a while, haven't you?
I had to go and get a brand new, got a fresh tank. Erica picked up this past week. I also got some new parts to my grill, which needed to be replaced since it's like 10 years old now. We got it as a wedding gift from our friends and stuff. So
you and I represent a very interesting dichotomy between Alex goes off to his volunteer fire service, drinks beers with the guys, finds new propane tanks and propane accessories.
Yep.
Meanwhile, I stare out into the city and watch as my pool continues filling overnight for the last 2 nights. Yeah, they've been filling the pool over the last couple of nights.
Is it consistent filling, or they stop at a certain time and then continue?
It's consistent, but it's just like this one little hose. So
like an actual like garden hose from Menards?
Equivalent. It's built into the pool, but it's the equivalent to the size of a garden.
Okay.
No, they just run a hose from one of the bathrooms.
I wouldn't doubt it.
They're like, yep, fill her up.
They actually hook it up to like the faucet of somebody's kitchen, like 3 stories up, and they just like loop it over like one of the balconies.
It's an empty apartment.
Yeah. But like you were saying, Memorial Day, it's kind of Memorial Day and Labor Day are like the bookends of summer.
Yes.
Because Nicholas's last day of school this year is going to be this Friday.
Oh, wow.
The 26th. And then he won't be back until like late August.
Is that kindergarten?
Yeah, he'll be starting kindergarten.
Wow.
Yeah. Which means then every day you have a uniform, son. So
that makes
but
it
theirs
easy.
Is a little it's a little bit more laxed. You just need to have certain kind of colors of polo shirts, and then you can still wear jeans, or if you wear shorts, then they have to be like khaki or something. But if you go to on Fridays, you have church, so it's like you have to wear your church attire, which means like the school like emblem, and then you have to have like the nice khaki pants.
Starting in first grade, do they have real uniforms, or is it just kind of no? But I mean like real uniforms.
No, it's
there
all
is
the way.
No real uniform. It's so first through 6th grade or 5th grade,
K through 8.
Oh, it goes all the way through 8th grade. Mm-hmm. So the 8th graders don't have a strict uniform.
No, they were.
That's interesting.
I found out a number of years ago that they were trying to kind of change it up, and the parents really weren't too keen on it. So it's as long as the kids are wearing not torn up jeans, and they all have similar like khakis and stuff, or polo shirts and stuff.
What was your school uniform like? How do you feel about school uniforms?
I'm fine with school uniforms. I think it's because people like us, like you and I, we had school uniforms all the time. I think it's you have the two options. You have the people who wore uniforms all the time. They're like, I hate uniforms, terrible, blah, blah, blah. And then you have somebody like me, which I'm like, I didn't really care about the uniforms because I just got used to it. It's just what I wore to school. Also, there's so many countries around the world that wear school uniforms and nobody really cares.
I highly encourage school uniforms as an old person, and as an adult, I'd say that yes, I am very on board. If I had children, I'd want them to go to school with a uniform.
Well, my friend, as a parent who has children, wait, that's redundant.
It's a little redundant.
As
a parent,
as a father who claims his children, I am highly supportive.
As a man whose wife claims he has children,
I've never been a more I have no issue with it. I think the one thing that kind of sets some people away from it is the fact that school uniforms are kind of something that you kind of have to pay out of pocket, unfortunately, in many cases. So I think if there was some sort of
3 pairs of pants and 5 shirts, no big deal.
I know, but yeah, otherwise, I personally have no issue with it. Like, I've never had a problem. Like, when I was in grade school, like, we had dark navy slacks and then white button-up shirts, like short sleeve shirts for boys, And then girls, yeah, that's kind of, that picture right there is kind of what
I very similar. I had the blue navy pants and a blue up through fifth grade. It was a blue polo, and then after fifth grade, it was a light blue button down shirt.
Yeah. There's usually a change around. I remember the girls, the boys pretty much had the same thing, except that like the jumper for the girls, I think once they got into like maybe fifth grade or seventh grade, they then switched from the jumper to like just the Peter Pan blouse, or the Peter Pan collar blouse they call it, and then they had like a vest, like a dark navy blue vest and stuff.
What the hell is this?
This is just some preppy.
Yeah, but like, look at the cut of these pants. He looks like he's going to. Oh, it's Alibaba. That's amazing. No wonder he looks vaguely synthetic. I think this is an AI image.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Look at that kid.
He looks so awkward compared to the girl. I mean,
it's
the
like
girl
Village
looks
of
like
the Damned.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, like they cut it. Like it looks like he's going to an ad agency. Like he's like, let me tell you about my new ad campaign for Tampax. Yeah. High school wise, we were more into we were in blazer territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Japan also themselves have their own types of different uniform. Anybody who's listened to whatever iteration of our podcast over the past 2 decades, well aware of our knowledge of Japan and love of Japan, where they have various types of styles, and it's dependent upon what region of the country, what time of the season in many cases.
Everybody knows about our interest in Japanese school uniforms. They definitely know all about our interest in Japanese school uniforms.
Very much so.
Yeah, the fantasy's over now. It's like fantasy, reality. Really unbecoming pants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but yeah, many countries have uniforms and stuff. Even like Australia, I think Australia, some Commonwealth countries have uniforms and some of them don't. Like Canada, I think unless you go to a private school, there's no uniform system. But then in England, I think they have private and public schools and they both use uniforms. And I think Australia might have something
I think
similar
so too.
to
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. They might have like private schools and then public schools have their own like non-uniform uniforms. But I think India has uniforms also.
I think a lot of the British colony states have school uniforms. I will say that I am not a fan at all of the Japanese military boy uniform.
Oh, the naval one?
This I'm not into.
I think that was like a naval uniform or something.
Yeah. When I was in high school, I thought it was
an anime series from the 80s. It's so very 80s looking.
But when I was in high school, I thought this was super cool. As I've gotten older, this is not that bad, but it's a little. It insists upon itself.
Yeah, I feel like they're kind of slowly phasing that one away.
Yeah. Well, this was the whole. The Yakuza kids or the
Yakuza, yeah.
The renegade kids were always walk around like that when they were picking on the nerds and 80s anime.
There's what season is it? It's Kamen Rider 4's where the main protag wears a uniform kind of similar to that, where he has the baggier pants and he has his hair done up with like, the gelled up kind of like look that like the stereotypical kind of like bad boy does, but he's like really nice, really friendly, but his just image is just completely opposite of it.
I think that more public schools should insist on using private.
Well, even a lot of charter schools have uniforms too,
a lot of
and
schools
they're kind
in
of
Chicago. I see a lot of
area.
kids in lots of kids in schools in Chicago that are in uniforms or uniform adjacent. Sort of
like a dress code of some sort.
like the kids at the school that your son goes to, where it doesn't have to be a specific shirt and specific pants and shoes, but here's the criteria for what it needs to be match.
Right.
So
right.
That's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So today there was an announcement that Bungie is rebooting Marathon. This is their follow-up to what I think it said 13 years first.
13 Years of Destiny.
13 Years of Destiny, I believe, is what this article said. It's
Crikey.
First non-Destiny title in 13 years. So that's something.
Or more like first new title in 13 years.
Right. Well, they left Activision. This is how maybe you knew this, but I didn't know this until I looked at this article. Did you know that Sony bought Bungie?
I was not aware of that.
How did we miss that? It happened last year.
How did anybody miss that? Well,
nobody missed it besides us necessarily.
No. But you would know, like, when you hear things, like they always call, like, Activision Blizzard. Like, you always are aware that, like, there's this joint partnership between them. But like, if Sony went out and bought, Bungie, like, still to this day there would be references to it, like when you're reading or you just hear things, just in regular chatter.
Well, also
I had no idea that it was Sony. So how does Sony buy things? Where does it get money? Like, Walkman don't make money anymore. Sony Vios don't make money.
$3.6 billion acquisition of Sony. Or Sony's $3.6 billion acquisition of Bungie. So
interesting.
That
logo looks very Kojima-esque.
July of 2022, so almost a year ago. But anyway, I thought this was interesting to see that they're returning to their original roots, even though I don't think any of the original roots are actually at the company. I think most of the original staff of Bungie is long gone.
Yeah.
Like, most of the key Halo people for sure are gone.
Yeah.
Including Marty O'Donnell, the music guy, who he left to do his own VR thing, which I don't know if that ever amounted to much.
And you could say the same for VR in general. So
yeah, sadly, VR did not seem to really...
it was the 3D TV of the video game universe.
I always wanted to use it. It just, there never was, aside from Half-Life Alyx, nothing really came out that made me almost feel desperate to get involved and to play it.
There was nothing out there that you wanted to play that could justify that initial buy-in.
Okay, well, the initial buy-in for Alyx I would have been on board with if there would have been other things that followed. I would not pay $700 just for Alyx.
What's funny is that when you look at motherboards, they all say, like, VR ready, and it's like, yeah, because the actual requirements for VR are exceptionally low, so technically any motherboard is ready to go VR ready. But it's like,
they needed to, there wasn't enough mass appeal or mass acceptance of the format. The thing with the Index for me was that I don't want to put up light boxes. I don't want to have to do, or whatever not light boxes, they were called lanterns.
Like the sensor system.
Yeah. So that made the other one, there was the Oculus. That made Oculus seem more appealing, but it was like so significantly underpowered. So it just kind of turned into like, well, whatever. I guess I'll just wait.
Yeah. Save the money and do something else with it.
I would have loved to have played it, but I'll put it this way. I tried to set it up at work because we had an extra one that this company that was sort of renting space had, and I went in, I was like, can I play Alyx finally? And like, if you can figure out how to set it up, because the guy who owns it is gone and he doesn't, we don't know how to set it up. So I tried to set it up and I gave up. And I might have been missing parts for all I know. But yeah, so, but yeah, Marathon, kind of interesting that this is where they're headed.
Yeah. They're bringing back Marathon. They're delving back into Marathon. and it says, I guess, like reboots classic FPS franchise, which, I mean, that's kind of the thing to do nowadays in the video game universe. You know, it's a lot of them are just like going back and rebooting or remastering or completely remaking an old beloved game. And I guess that's probably, they have the same mindset here with Marathon, because not many people really got to play it, because wasn't it like Apple exclusive, I think, or something like that?
Yeah, it was a Mac exclusive game. Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, that right there already cut out like a massive percentage of the PC gaming community, since it was only on one particular OS. So I guess anybody who's played it since probably was able to get like, you know, emulations of it or something to run on their PCs and stuff like that. It would be interesting to see what they do with this, if they, you know, how far they want to completely redo it. But, you know, instead of making a new IP of some sort, they're kind of just going back to what they're best known for, which is first-person sci-fi shooters, which at the same time, you know, who else is better at that than they are?
Well, I have to, I don't know what necessarily you're implying or looking like anticipating, but this is the part that kind of takes the air out of the announcement, in my opinion. Look to Destiny, not the original Marathon games, for a hint at what kind of game the new Marathon will be. This will be a multiplayer games as a service affair, in contrast to the original franchise's single player campaigns. Specifically, Marathon will be an extraction shooter, a genre that has become increasingly popular over the over the past few years.
Okay, extraction shooters.
I don't know what. So you explain to me what an extraction shooter is.
So basically, I know Dr. Disrespect is trying to get into this.
Escape from Tarkov.
Yeah, basically, it's like you kind of go. It's kind of like a loot and scoot type of game.
Loot and scoot. That's
what would I call it? It was sort of like Borderlands, were kind of like that in a sense, where you'd kind of go in there with your gear set up. Not necessarily Borderlands, but like you'd go in and try to get the best type of gear and stuff like that. Similar to like, yeah, Tarkov is a good example of that. Call of Duty Warzone has some sort of like segments of that where you just kind of have, you make a loadout, you go in, you try to get stuff within a certain period of time, get a certain objective captured and stuff, and then try to get to an extraction zone that you have to wait for a few seconds, and then you have either in-game AI and real players trying to do the same thing and compete against each other. And it would be interesting to see. I guess then they're just doing this within the Marathon universe, which begs the question, why would you even need to unearth Marathon and not just maybe, you know, just introduce this into, you know, a new, like, I don't know, Destiny 3.
Yeah,
it could be built around this, since you have Destiny.
I mean, yeah, I can tell you
at this point are getting,
yeah, but you know
Destiny 2 is long in the tooth.
Yeah, but you know why. Destiny 2 was part of Activision era. Now Sony wants their own toy to push out onto the marketplace. And it will, if they're telling you already to look to Destiny 2 for what to expect, this is just Destiny 3 with a different coat of paint.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm very disappointed by, is when I first saw this headline, I was thinking, oh, cool, Bungie's going to do a real game again.
A single player.
Like a single
corridor
player, shooter, story-driven game.
Which, as crazy as it sounds, would be exceptionally refreshing in this day and age. But they're going to just go this route with the game as service extraction shooter, which is the new big thing, because battle royales are kind of hitting their limit and stuff like that.
Well, I thought that all of this games as a service stuff was coming to an end. I felt like there were so many things.
No, they're going to milk this thing. This is GTA 5, and I feel GTA 6 even more so are going to be so heavily games as a service. GTA 5 right now, it's pretty much just game as a service. You know, it's just it's just an MMO. Pretty much all MMOs are kind of like this to a certain point. where it's going to be you pay real world cash to get in-game boosts, and then you can do more stuff, and then there's going to be some sort of incentive to pay more money in-game to, use as insurance or something like that for the gear that you have, so nobody else can get it. It's where it's going to be going and stuff like that. So,
I don't know. There seems to be so much controversy over the games as a service model, and so many games fail under this model. There's a handful of games that are successful and become very profitable, but the vast majority of the games, there's a YouTube series called Death of a Game. It's a YouTube channel. And they talk about it's almost every single episode. It's really good.
Yeah, I really like the one about the Star Wars galaxies that he did recently.
Yeah, it's he goes through and analyzes why the game failed, and there's just
shows like the things and charts and releases
of them.
Yeah,
it's like aside from the handful of World of Warcraft, Battlefield a little bit, Star Wars Battlefield, I feel like was kind of successful. Destiny kind of. Although that was a little bit shaky, especially at the beginning of these games. They're not, most of them are not massive hits, and the vast majority fail within a couple of years.
Oh, yes.
So,
yeah.
I don't want to be mean, but anytime I see this stuff, I kind of just want it all. Fortnite's a good example, of course, of something that's popular, obviously.
Yeah.
But I also every time I hear this stuff, I'm like, I hope this is a colossal failure, and like a kick in the nuts for all these companies that think that people just want to play these stupid, or this is a sustainable style of gameplay.
And what's sad also too is that the industry is so slow to realize any mistakes that are being made by their peers within their own industry, where they're all like, oh, what is this? What's the new hot thing? Battle Royales. Everybody has to have a Battle Royale mode. Everybody has, they wanted to do the thing for the Halo Infinite game. They were like, oh, we should have a Battle Royale mode and stuff. And there people are like, no, we don't need that. And I'm thinking, maybe you kind of should have, because I don't know anybody who still plays it all the time. I don't know who plays what's the main campaign about? There's a single player campaign which exists, but I don't know who's played it and what it's all about and stuff. But they want to play a multiplayer. That's all they wanted to do, was to play that stuff online. And a Battle Royale mode could have helped it. But now they're kind of, like I was saying, they're getting tired of Battle Royales. They want to move on to the extraction shooters and stuff like that.
I just feel like an old person, because I don't get the appeal of the Battle Royale style of gameplay.
It's
like,
I think it's based upon it's honestly based upon Battle Royale. It's not Hunger Games. It's trying to outlast all of the other opponents and become the champion.
But I mean, in the old Team Slayer and just normal shoot 'em up, team-based, squad-based shooter, it was just who gets hits the kill limit or gets the most amount of kills, and you could keep playing. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It's like the game is over.
I think
before it starts.
The Battle Royale is the big difference between the arena shoot. It's that arena shooters have an arena that's a very small, confined, closed area, as opposed to the Battle Royales, which have giant maps. And I think it's because open world games have become a big thing. So they're kind of combining the arena shooter with the open world, and thus that's how you kind of get the Battle Royale, because you need spaces to do that.
Except that
and incentives to close people closer together.
Except that Battlefield 3 had normal arena shooter and had gigantic maps also. So I just don't understand that the kids who are so short attention spans want to play a game where you get killed and you have to wait for 12 minutes to get up and play again. Like, why?
Nicholas.
I know, but what do you do while you're waiting?
You just go into a new lobby.
Oh.
Yeah.
But then you got to wait for another game to start.
Yeah, it's really not that long, because they can't have consistent servers running and stuff like that. And there's also different game modes.
What if you're playing with your friends?
Everybody can back out.
So one person gets killed and the whole team loses because you got killed?
No.
But this is my
If you don't want to continue.
So it's me and you and Adrian and Erica, let's say. We're all playing Fortnite. I get killed immediately out of the gate because I don't know what I'm doing and I suck at it. So now you three of you are all still alive.
Yes.
Competing.
So if you get knocked down, and you're still alive, we can get
I'm dead.
We can.
You can't heal me.
Oh,
I'm
you're totally
dead.
killed.
I'm dead.
We can get your what is that? It's like your player token. They have something like this in Apex Legends. You take your player like a player card or token, and you go to a revival spot, and they can bring you back into the match.
Okay. All right.
So, but if your entire team gets eliminated, then that's kind of how that.
All right.
So there's some mechanics to try to fix that and stuff, but yeah.
You know what would be easier than that? Just letting you respawn.
I know, I understand. Yeah,
I don't understand.
That's why I told you I got what was it, Skyrim Anniversary Edition for like $7, and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna go here and do this, and oh, here's the dungeon. Better watch out for all the monsters. A British couple who had to go to court in order for them to be able to legally name their child Lucifer. Okay, so Dan and Mandy Sheldon from Derbyshire ended up having to lodge a complaint with a local registrar because the person apparently took issue with them wanting to name their son Lucifer, which I don't know. I guess the name Lucifer in England is just as common as Jesus down in Tijuana or something like that. So they wanted to basically register their kid's name. This is from several years ago during Corona time, and the kid was 4 months old and stuff. And they were told to basically leave by the registrar at the town office and stuff because she basically said that they have to check it for them to be able to register the kid with the name Lucifer because it's a satanic title and stuff like that. And the guy is like on record saying that he's like, oh, we were so very excited to go and have him, registered in town, but then like we got these looks from this person who was doing this and stuff like that. And they were told by this individual, they're never going to amount to anything. They not going to get a job. Nobody wants to. And they told this person that the name in Greek means like light bringer and stuff like that. But like, it's kind of like, it doesn't matter what it means originally. It's kind of like what it means now, or the connotation and association of the individual with that name. Yeah. And they were even informed apparently that, I didn't know this, but the name Lucifer is banned from being given to anybody in New Zealand since like the early 2010s. Which was kind of interesting. So, I guess they ended up, the town council had to basically just kind of be like, yes, we very much apologize for this. We didn't want to give you the grief. So it sounds like they ended up going and just capitulating and allowing them to go and name the kid Lucifer, which, basically the mom, it's Dan and Mandy Sheldon, so you got Lucifer Sheldon, and it's like, do you people not even understand like the cultural connotation with the specific name, and also what other kids are even gonna think about, naming, or if they come across a kid whose name is Lucifer, most people nowadays, I'm thinking like on the totem pole of names, it's like Devil, Satan, and then Lucifer at the bottom, but still, like, you don't name him Lucifer. It's like, well, it's kind of weird.
Okay, well, it's very weird, and I don't like edgy boys naming their kids after the Prince of Darkness.
Yeah. Or modern or people within the past 10 years that have been naming their daughters like Daenerys or
that's just
some other shit like that.
Here's my dilemma as a enlightened centrist.
You fence sitter.
I don't think that the government should be determining what parents can name their children.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from specific federal or just governmental concerns, like that article was saying that in New Zealand you can't name your child Prince Jameson or Prince Finyak or Colonel Finyak. You can't give him military.
Like a title.
You can't give him a title or her a title of, because girls can be princes too now, Alex.
Yeah, her name was Mulan.
That's right.
Great movie. Eddie Murphy. If you close your eyes, you honestly feel the donkey is there in the scenes with her.
You just know.
I just know.
So that's part of what New Zealand does. But at the same, like I said, I don't think that it's the government's responsibility to protect parents from screwing up their children's lives by giving them a ridiculous name.
Yeah.
We didn't
let them do it on themselves.
Yeah,
if your enemy is making a mistake, let them continue making the mistake.
We didn't stop Apple, and we didn't stop Ash 19, whatever Elon Musk's kid's name is.
Oh, yeah.
So between Gwyneth Paltrow and Elon Musk and any other ridiculous celebrity names, it's like, because what? Okay, so here it is. So like, what was X Ash AZ?
It's probably like
pronunciation.
A command code for something in Tesla or something, whatever. Or maybe it's like if he puts in that name, then at least it's Tesla's like entire army of like T900s.
Grimes and Musk seem to have different ideas of how to pronounce the name. Meanwhile, to X, the letter X, then Ash, then A-12. A-12 is my contribution. Oh, I. AI is an I. Anyway, point is that the U.S. didn't stop Elon Musk from doing this damage. So naming your kid Lucifer, I think, is probably less offensive than whatever that was. I just call him Lucy. Perfect.
Problem solved.
But you know what I mean? Would you want the government telling you what you can name your child?
No.
Okay.
I don't want the government telling me what the heck I need to do anyways. Especially paying taxes.
Man, living in the sticks has definitely made you a different person.
Living in the sticks also makes me pay a lot less in taxes.
Literally the Finyak compound coming in 2025.
Yep.
That's nice.
That's nice.
When the FBI is knocking on my door, I'll be like, "Oh yeah, do you want to see the tapes?" This isn't a surprise at all.
No, you'll take them to that storage that's public storage place like they did in True Detective.
It's like, don't tell them about the storage space, Alex.
Don't tell them. Pay no attention to the multiple firearms on the wall.
All right. Anyway, what the hell are we talking about? The more important part.
The Wienermobile.
The more important part of this is that the Wienermobile is getting a new name.
Ooh.
Oscar Mayer's Wienermobile is driving off into the sunset. Say hello to the Frankmobile. For the first time in its nearly century-long existence, the famous hot dog-shaped vehicle is changing its name. Oscar Mayer says the new Frankmobile name pays homage to the new recipe for its hot dogs rolling out this summer. The all-beef Frankmobile. Despite the change, the Frankmobile looks largely the same compared to its predecessor, other than a new decal that calls it the Frankmobile. So do you think
Wienermobile.
Do you think that this got renamed because people were uncomfortable about having to say Wienermobile?
Well, they've been saying it for a century.
Well,
they all of a sudden woke up one day and they said, "I'm outraged."
Well, that would certainly make them
prudish. Well,
come on, man! You walked in. You set that up.
Nobody calls it a wiener. Who calls it a wiener nowadays? Are they 5?
Kids say wiener.
Kids.
A whole bunch of
5 and 6 year olds.
Yeah, all the 5 and 6 year olds. All the 6-year-old girls were like, "I'm uncomfortable with this."
The Wienermobile. The Frankmobile. It doesn't even roll off the tongue properly, like Frankmobile.
Wienermobile, definitely.
Because they own all the... Because, well, the thing is, if they're doing this as like a promo, okay, they're introducing some new all-beef recipe. I'm pretty sure Oscar Mayer already had all-beef hot dogs.
Well, I mean, they were an option.
They were an option unless they're making just the regular hot dogs now all-beef also.
That's too expensive.
Yeah, that's true. So this is just... I feel like this is just a marketing promo. They're probably going to switch it back eventually.
Yes. Oscar Mayer was coy about whether the name change is permanent, telling CNN that it's trying out to see if it cuts the mustard with its fans, a company spokesperson said.
No.
The brand's new recipe for hot dogs represents the first change to Oscar Mayer's Franks in 6 years. Ooh, oh no, 6 years.
6 years?
This reminds me of... I think that at exactly the last point on the last episode, you were like, half a dozen.
They serve 6 people. Half a dozen. Yes. What is with this, like...
There's a precedent being set. Customers will soon see refreshed packaging and taste, more balanced flavor profile, and iconic beefy taste with its more delicious, that is more delicious than ever, according to a press release.
You could just buy any other brand that makes... all beef. You got like Nathan's, you got Ballpark, you got Vienna beef.
Thank you.
You got
the one true hot dog. Yes, I agree.
Anybody,
Vienna beef.
One true hot dog to rule them all.
Yep.
Like anybody.
I feel bad for people who haven't experienced a Vienna beef hot dog because I am kind of a hot dog connoisseur. I have tried many of the allegedly premium hot dog brands. I will say Hebrew National. Close second.
Okay.
But Nathan's, garbage.
Yeah, Nathan's, my mom, I remember she got it one time because we were doing like a 4th of July thing. She's like, oh, they're going to do Nathan's thing on ESPN and stuff like that. And we all ate it and we're like,
It pales in comparison to the might of the might of the mighty.
Viennese
the might of the
beef.
Viennese beef.
Yeah, I wonder if like maybe if you get a fresh Nathan's hot dog in New York City, it's way better. Kind of like I have that thing about Home Run Inn pizza where the frozen is way better, in my opinion, than the fresh Home Run Inn pizza.
I understand, although that's counterintuitive, because
I know.
I would understand.
I know.
I have an ongoing debate with infamous Liz about I've learned new information that changes my position slightly on this topic, but she was saying that Guinness beer in Ireland tastes better than Guinness beer in the United States. And I said, bullshit, because it's the exact same beer. I've since learned that they have opened a brewery for Guinness in the United States, which would potentially change the flavor. This does not apply to when she was in Ireland drinking Guinness, incidentally. My argument is that the ambiance and the atmosphere and just knowing that you're sitting in an Irish pub drinking Irish beer from Guinness poured by an Irishman will make you enjoy that Irish Guinness beer more. That's my... Yeah. So being in New York, sitting at Coney Island or whatever... having
there's
a
that mystique.
It's a whole experience, and that's...
It's like people who like the sequel trilogy, because it's owned by Disney now.
Those aren't real people.
They don't exist. Sometimes I look... Do you ever look at some people, and you think to yourself, that's a real, honest-to-goodness human being?
I think about that
and
when
I'm fascinated by them.
I'm thinking about that when I'm driving. I think about, like, that's a real human being who has their own world and life experiences and relationships, and all that I desperately want from them now is for them to die, and I don't care about any of that. They
in a horrific bicycle accident,
car. I want their car to explode.
Pack of hyenas attacks them randomly.
Plane crashes into just their car. It's like a single engine plane just directly into their car. That's all I. That's all I want out of life. Is that person?
Godzilla steps on them.
This morning, this woman was beeping at me because there was an oncoming car and a car parallel parking. So I had to stop and wait for the car to parallel park, and she was losing her mind behind me because I had nowhere to go.
She also should have woken up 10 minutes
If
earlier.
she died from an empty plane falling on her car, I would not have felt bad.
No.
So,
No.
anyway, it's a little bit of bloodlust. It's very hard to drive. it's very stressful.
I've noticed that the quality of driving skills have just... Like, people don't even know the cars come equipped with, like, turn signal levels.
That's been a thing forever, though.
I know, but it's getting... that's my major pet peeve.
In Chicago, stop signs basically don't exist anymore.
Oh, really? They've become yield signs, apparently.
If you're lucky. They're yield
if you're
signs.
like shit.
Most of the time, I just watch the car go through the stop sign. I'm like, okay.
I mean, you think it's something that's that bright, bold red would catch people's
To me,
attention.
it's like, I just don't... Do you want to deal with this inconvenience, really? If you bash into me, you want to deal with that this morning? That's what you want to spend your morning doing. Just stop. Anyway, most important thing, most outlandish thing is that the Wienermobile is becoming the Frankmobile in a shameless pursuit of attention. It's so obviously being done to get the headlines. So, but at least I hope so. At least I hope so.
Yeah, because honestly, Frank, it sounds like some guy named Frank made a car named it after himself.
the syllables land in the wrong place. It, like
Frankmobile.
Wienermobiles, but it just kind of goes woo doo 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 doo. Frankmobile.
Are they going to change the song? Is it going to be, oh, I wish I was an Oscar Mayer Frank?
That's a very compelling argument.
Because you're going to have to, because why would the Frankmobile be playing a ditty about wieners?
We'll have to, we'll have to tweet them.
I don't have access to our Twitter account.
I offered you access to our Twitter account, and you said, no, I'll get into trouble. I haven't tweeted in months.
Yeah. Did you ever notice on Twitter, sometimes you follow people and then you never see their tweets? And you're just like, where are all their tweets? And you actually look up their profile and you find like all their tweets from the past several weeks. And you're just like, why isn't the show on just...
This is Elon.
Everybody wants to sell me Bitcoin.
This is an Elon Musk thing. I don't know.
I know it's an Elon thing. It got fixed for a while. Now it's kind of getting crappy again. I think the whole algorithm and program that runs Twitter is just screwed beyond belief. Kind of like YouTube.
Alex, speaking of millennials and Zoomers ruining everything, the Wienermobile, you were talking to me about an entire intergenerational segment of the population that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, so you remember years ago, or maybe not years ago, but when we used to be part of that whole Gen Y group before they renamed us Millennials and stuff like that.
Pepsi called us that.
Yeah. They've kind of, in recent years, created this kind of smaller crossover group, which are sort of people that still remember a lot of Gen X stuff, but then also do a lot of millennial stuff. So we're kind of in that like, it's kind of like a 6 to 7 year age bracket time period that they do that. Well, a similar thing that they've dubbed recently, according to USA Today, is that there's a group of millennials and Gen Z called Zillenials. And I find it very interesting. They're basically where they're kind of in between crossover between the two generational ends of the millennials and the beginning of Gen Z. And it was something where they're trying to have their cake and eat it too with the best of both groups. So they say that basically, according to Pew Research, anyone that's born between 81 and 96 is considered a millennial. Anyone then born 97 to 2012 is considered Gen Z. So they kind of have this dividing line somewhere in 1996. That is where they say that the Zillennial group is between 92 to 2002. So it's created this kind of like 10-year gap where it almost feels like then there really is no defining, like, bookend for any generation, because you're always going to have this group in the center that's this crossover, either beginning or ending something. And they were saying that some of these micro generations, as they call them, they were alive during the 9/11 events, but they were far too young to remember it. And it's like, yes, they would be, because they were like, 6, 7, 8, something like that. And they basically grew up in the post-war on terror world. They don't remember much of like the pre-universe, but then they also were too young to get into the early days of social media with MySpace, but now have become much more adept to using TikTok as their social media type of thing. And they also, that they were never really too ingrained in VHS, but they do remember having DVDs as their earliest memory. And, now they've got the full transition into streaming and such like that. So some of the other aspects of this, according to BuzzFeed, a dead website, is that Zillenials had a single family computer at home. They also were young to see the rise of YouTube at the time period. They watched certain types of shows on Disney Channel. They also supposedly were able to burn a mix CD, because remember, computers used to actually have like burner drives back in the day.
Mine still does.
Yep. And they also had possibly a CD player, which got like a hand-me-down CD player that was then replaced by like an iPod and such like that. They might have been old enough to remember, some of this Zillennial bingo. Pontiac Aztec, they got that nice Apple.
Pontiac Aztec? What?
Or is that Pontiac Aztec? No, it's a Dodge Caravan.
Oh, okay. Like a Pontiac Aztec was this.
They've had a nicotine addiction or something. They had a Game Boy Advance. Little to no memory of the 90s. They were the people that you'd see standing in line for, Harry Potter. They watched Hannah Montana.
Okay, the nicotine addiction is a reference to vaping, I'm sure.
Which is more of a Zoomer type of thing, but since there would be the older group of Zoomers, that would make sense.
These are Zoomers. Sorry. Here's the
situation.
They
were into Tumblr.
This is the same as you were saying, being like, I don't want to be considered a millennial. Because we're in this border generation.
Older.
Yes, the older side. It is bull.
Yeah.
You're a millennial.
I know.
The Zillennials are Zoomers. And everyone's just trying to, because they're embarrassed of the other group, because they're older, they are trying to establish that they're not part of that group. So now we've actually entered into the period where there are Zoomers who would rather be associated more with millennial things than with Zoomer things. Because Zoomers are that embarrassing, where millennials are relatively cool now.
Here's my thing,
even though millennials ruined the world.
Well,
contributed to we joined the illustrious history of ruining the world.
Well, Gen X and the Boomers also need to.
That's my point.
I don't want. See, here's the thing. I also don't want to become part of Gen X, because I find Gen X to be exceptionally full of themselves. When they talk about how much superior they are to everybody, they have a superiority context. It's this very self-centered superiority complex that they have, where there's always these memes you see where you have like the boomer fighting the millennial, and then the Zoomers in the corner crying, and then the cool Gen X guy just sitting there with the shades on, drinking his, whatever. And I'm going like, you guys are also part, like, why, if you're too cool for school, why are you here with everybody else? And the boomers are leaving. You guys have become the new oldest group, the oldest kids on the block, and you guys are going to be starting to take charge of stuff, where many of you have birthed these Zoomers that you complain about. And I find it very, very funny how you kind of like are like, oh, you're washing our hands of this whole thing and stuff
Alex,
like that.
but you complained about Zoomers the same way Gen X complains about us. And
yes, it's cyclical.
I know, but do you not? But can you take a step back?
It's like poetry.
But see, you need to break the cycle and recognize that
break the walls down, break the walls of Jericho.
It's that every group has their ups and downs. Every generation contributes and detracts from the fabric of society. Mm-hmm. I cannot specifically think of anything Zoomers have contributed whatsoever, but they're still young.
They're still young.
So,
what you're seeing, are you pleased by it?
No, it's a disaster.
Okay.
It's an absolute
but
disaster.
But they're still young.
But I don't hold anything against Gen X.
I just feel like they need to stop.
They're too pompous.
Being so full of themselves.
Well, you're being full of yourself as a millennial.
Yes. Yes. It's like we're all full of ourselves.
What I find most offensive about Zoomers is that I see the naivety that was evident in us when we were 25 years old. And I think that's part of what makes older people judgmental of the next generation, is that it's too much of a mirror half the time. Because listening to what the young people that I've worked with have to say, I'm just like, you're so innocent and naive, and you think you're not. I get it. We have 20 years of podcasts of us being naive, and it's just frustrating to see that it doesn't get better. Everyone is idealistic when they're young. Everyone has plans. Everyone thinks that that they can make things better in some way, and it's all bullshit.
Yeah, and because you then turn 40 and you just.
I mean, it really, truly is.
Do you think?
And most of the time, what you want to change is misguided.
Yeah. Do you think that, on that note, do you think that Gen Z would actually be the first generation in a while that they kind of still continue being naive into their late 20s, 30s, so on?
Well, are they 30 yet?
I
think they're only like 25, 26 now.
Because according to this, and there's a lot of these like experts kind of waver a couple of years in there. Anywhere between 97 and 2012. So,
detailed breakdown of each generation.
Yeah, they're in their late 20s at this point.
So, according to the same links in the same article,
that's a heck of a gap. Because technically, my oldest niece could be able to qualify for being a Zoomer, but she's 12. But she's also part of like Gen Alpha, which is like what the boys are part of.
So the youngest Gen Z are 26.
Or do you mean the oldest?
Wait, sorry, the oldest.
Okay.
If 97, then they're 26 years old. So that's funny, because then the person that I'm thinking of at work is technically Generation Alpha, because he's 23. Oh, wait, I'm an idiot.
No, he'd still, yeah. The oldest Alpha now, I think, is like 11.
Got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Got it. Sorry, I was math am hard.
Hey, we were never big on math as kids.
No, that's why I went into the arts. Yeah. Anyway, the point is that I don't remember. I don't remember the point we were making.
Generational stereotyping is all relative.
Oh, naivety. Everyone's naive, and it's frustrating to the generation in front of them, because everybody seems to want. It's like we need like accumulation of knowledge, but it all kind of just starts over. Aside from technology, it's sort of like it's just a new iteration on that, and it is, like you said, cyclical. So, good luck to Generation Z. You're gonna need it.
Yep.
I will say that having a generation as pathetic as Generation Z is also kind of liberating because now well, you have kids, so this is different, but I really don't have to care about like saving the planet, like pollution.
I never did.
Like
no, I watched
pollution,
Fern
it's
Gully
like,
as a kid. Well, the thing was like when we were kids, like we had Fern Gully and Captain Planet and all that other garbage, and it's like
you were like
I always ask people, I'm like, did we save the rainforest? Because you don't hear anything about the rainforest. So it's either A, we did, and nobody talks about it America because nobody cares, or B, we weren't, so the rainforest doesn't exist anymore, so there's nothing to talk about. And my second point on that is that if you ever looked at Captain Planet and you step back and look at the big picture and you think to yourself, why are we getting earth-saving tips from a blue man with green hair wearing a crop top, Daisy Dukes, and go-go boots?
Weren't those pants?
Those were not pants. Those were not pants, my friend.
I like how you're like 10 years old watching Captain Planet being like, preachy.
Now we'd like just a minute of your time to say something about the environment.
Preaching!
I like the Kid Wheeler who had the ring that shot fire.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, that guy's cool.
Oh my.
Yeah. Why don't you show the kids why don't you show the Zoomers what Captain Planet looked like?
I didn't realize.
There's also Don Cheadle playing it. Yeah, look at that. Oh, he also had gloves.
These are tights.
Dishwashing gloves.
These aren't hot pants.
Those aren't tights.
And I guess I can't really make that argument because his skin is that color too. Is he made out of rock or something? Oh, I forgot about her. No, he's just like,
yeah, Guinan had a side job. Is that the Don Cheadle one? Don Cheadle.
Ridiculous Captain Planet parody? What the hell is this? Oh, Funny or Die. That doesn't count.
Mm-hmm.
No. Captain Planet was always part of the
Sunday morning cartoons on Channel 50.
Yeah, it was the questionable block of cartoons. It was like...
Well, they also had Beast Wars on and Mr. Bogus, and I was just like, okay.
See, Beast Wars for me was like syndicated Monday through Friday, like at 7 a.m. It was a weekday morning cartoon in my experience.
Did they switch it? Because I always remember them being on Sundays.
I may have watched it after the post first airing.
Okay, maybe that was what they might have changed it and stuff. Because I always tried to.
I remember
sleep in on Sundays and I have to go to church so I can watch it.
So yeah. I remember
some of my best thinking and philosophizing.
Perfect.
Was done as a child in a church pew in Chicago. And I would just sit there and be like, this is very peaceful. And now I have to stand up because everybody else is standing up. And now I have to sit down because everybody else is standing up. I just want to sit here and be like, and just do that the whole time.
Well, I'm happy that you were not thinking and contemplating Jesus and your sins. Instead, you were...
My son will do it for me.
That's what God said.
He just came down one day. And
God didn't want to get up, so he sent Jesus. It's like Holy Spirit was like, God.
He said, Jesus.
You're supposed to redeem humans. He's like, have Jesus do it. Have him. It's like
he looks up from his covers and he's just like,
it's that picture.
Sleep.
It's that picture of Jesus praying, saying like, dear God, are you there? It's me, you.
Did you ever see the pictures of like sports Jesus?
No.
Where there's like Jesus playing baseball and then there's like Jesus like posting up and there's like soccer Jesus.
Yeah. Well, these aren't pictures. It's like there's the
statuettes.
Figures. Yeah, the statuettes.
Look at that hip check Jesus.
Yeah, who's Jesus helping in this? Inspirational figurines.
He's had a lot of Labatt's. He's just jumped onto the ice. Look at that guy.
He's getting tackled.
Tackle football.
Who tackles Jesus? Oh no. Bad touch.
No. That's like angels in the outfield. There it is. Oh. He's playing basketball. Jesus is gonna dunk on your ass.
Oh man. And there's multiple versions. Oh no. See, this just makes me very uncomfortable because it's this like
I smell Protestantism behind this.
I was just going to
or
say,
Jesuit.
I smell Protestants. It is. It's that like we're gonna try to be cool.
Somebody's brought an electric guitar to church today.
I'm not okay with this. But Alex, do you know what I am okay with? I'm okay with Tengoku Daimakyo.
幸せな気分になる夢を見た。
最近みんな変なんだ。
変だね。
変かな。
時雄は外がどうなってると思う？
ここより外があるの？部屋の外、学校の外、外の外。
お姉ちゃん。
この町はもう全滅してるよ。
何にもない。
崩壊前は日本中徒歩5分圏内に何でも売ってる店があったって。
天国に連れてってやるからよ。
探してたんだ、天国。
地獄です。俺の手は死しか生まねえな。
そんなこと言うな。この向こうが外。お別れを言いに来た。
ここから逃げて。
Also known in English as Heavenly Delusion. There we go.
Delusion.
Also known as Heavenly Delusion. It is a story about two kind of parallel stories going on. One is a couple of kids at a mysterious scientific research facility school thing that are locked away from the rest of society and are beginning to question if there's anything beyond the walls of the world that they know, and exhibiting strange abilities and strange sicknesses. Very mysterious goings on.
Yes.
Simultaneously, there's the story of our two probably like main protagonists,
Yeah.
whose names I don't really remember.
There's Maru and Kuruki?
I should have written these down.
I know Maru is the boy, and then Kuruko is the girl.
Kiruko. Maru and Kiruko.
Slaughter that pronunciation.
15-year-old boy traveling with his kind of bodyguard, Kiruko, as they travel through the ruins of Earth, or at least Japan, as far as we know.
Yeah, Japan, because they talk about they were in Tokyo and then they're heading towards Osaka, like everyone does in Japan.
And it's sort of like not too post-cataclysm, because there are people who remember how it used to be that are still alive.
Yeah, it's surprisingly, even though it's like a post-apocalyptic setting, and events that occurred, there like a lot of the actual infrastructure is still existent in some capacity, and a lot of the towns and areas that they come across, there is thriving communities and little like settlements of people that are just trying to kind of build something back together to what they had and have a functional civilization once again. So, which is kind of refreshing, because a lot of more recent post-apocalyptic series and films are just like where everything's just in shambles. And here it's kind of like, yeah, there was this really bad event, things were terrible, a lot of people died, but we're trying to, we've got some glue and some duct tape, and we're trying to piece it back together, which is nice, refreshing change of pace, in my opinion.
I completely agree with you. There is another series that Production IG did not that long ago called Moribito, which was not similar at all. But the series Moribito, really good series. One of my favorite things about this series was that people were logical. And I think I've mentioned this before, there are moments where somebody's the main character is like, no, let me explain. Like people get sent to kill her, and she's like, you're not realizing what's going on. Let me explain what's actually going on. And they're like, I was sent to kill you, but I'll listen to what you have to say. And then she's like, your master is lying to you, and this kid is important because. And they're like, that makes a lot of sense. We're gonna help you. And it was just like, whoa.
Yeah,
in a lesser anime, these people would have just gotten massacred by the main character and killed.
Right,
Instead, they become sympathetic and they're like, well, let's see what's really going on.
As much as I enjoy the Mad Max franchise, Mad Max, like the society or world, or Australia for the most part, in Mad Max, which is not too different from modern day Australia. But
especially you get inland.
Yeah, so civilization in that are just completely off the deep end, which is like the total extreme opposite of what you described and kind of what goes on in this series, where it's like everybody in that thing have become like just feral savages practically in the hunt for like, gasoline and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, I like even the bandits, because there are still bandits in this, post maybe not apocalyptic, but post
highwaymen type of
and they're not just strictly cannon fodder violent people.
They're kind of brought to that lifestyle or occupation because of circumstances that's forced them to do
and they
that.
also are still kind of more fixated on, we want your food or supplies. They're not specifically just trying to R-word and murder people. We can't say the R word on YouTube anymore.
Yeah, thanks, Susan.
So it's refreshing, as you said, to see characters act kind of humanely and not completely just be caricatures of villains that are just need to be dispatched during the episode. There's a lot more just plain bullies that show up than violent offenders, like when he's playing the arcade game, and they're just kind of messing with him and bullying him, and he shows that he knows how to take care of himself, obviously, but it does create an interesting setting of settlements of people. And then the main question is, what are these weird creatures that have shown up on the planet and are attacking people, of which Maru, our de facto protagonist, that's him right there, he's one of the people who knows how to kill these creatures. And Kiriko, she has inherited a weapon that is able to damage them and kill them also, so they're kind of like start marketing their ability to kill these creatures as a way to make money.
So they become like entrepreneurial, like I guess monster killers, like Van Helsing type of thing, monster hunters and stuff like that, while at the same time continuing their journey to get from point A to point B for Maru to achieve his goal. I don't know how much we want to go into detail about what.
I guess we could say that she has been hired as a bodyguard. He is being escorted to a place called Heaven, but he doesn't know where it is. She, meanwhile, is looking for a couple of friends, a doctor and a friend.
And people from her past.
Yeah, people from her past. We won't go too much into her past.
Because at the time of this recording, there's only been 8 episodes, and I think it's 13 episodes, so we're doing kind of like a half season review, which, I mean, we'll probably come back and do a full one, because we've had a good run with some of the series that we've seen so far and enjoyed and such.
I have to say, and there's like two really quick things. One, animation quality is shockingly good for a television show. From what I hear, this manga series is really, really popular in Japan. And so Production IG was sort of giving it their all. It's like, Ganbate, Production IG. Like, they started production in 2019, I guess.
Oh, wow.
So they've been working on this for a while. And it shows. Like, it is expertly animated, expertly paced, really interesting storytelling, really good I don't know how much it mirrors the manga necessarily, but it is well structured as a story. I will start to forget that the school exists, and then I'm like, oh yeah, what's going on there? And then it never feels like, oh, we're back at the school. I want to see what's going on with Maru and Kiruko.
Right. I think to that point, to add to it, is that since they've been taking such a long time to do this, and they're only doing like 13 episodes for the first season, kind of similar to how it was with Chainsaw Man, I think that companies now, animation companies there are able to kind of realize that, hey, let's put better quality into what we're going to put out, because there's so many other companies out there that are just cranking out stuff on a consistent basis, and Production IG, having the pedigree and the namesake that they are, have a certain standard that they have to live up to, where it's like, we don't have to necessarily, take so much time like we're making an actual film, but we can put a lot better quality stuff into it and be able to flesh things out and go about that way. And I'm kind of like, honestly, like perfectly fine with having these shorter seasons compared to like some of the older stuff that was, it was all done within like 26 episodes or something like that.
I would be fine with it if, what always concerns me, and this is something I was thinking about almost because of this show, because we watched Dorehedoro a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. It was like 12 episodes, but there has not been a season since. No, unfortunately. Same thing with Attack on Titan, which has gradually gotten so strung out over the years that I've lost interest in it.
Yeah, because if there's nothing new coming out, then why even be waiting with bated breath?
So that's the thing with say on a short series side, I don't know, Serial Experiments Lane is a whole story told in 12 episodes. Great. Then you've got Evangelion, which is a whole series told in 26 episodes, or Summertime Rendering, let's say. Like, it was a complete... I know that this isn't going to be done with the story in episode 13. Yeah. And I get concerned about how long do I have to wait before I see the next season. Same with Chainsaw Man. It's
because they're working off of a still active manga series.
And because I'm enjoying it so much, it's extra frustrating. Because then I turn into like, well, I just have to read the manga now, and I don't know. I like anime, No.
Have you done? I don't know if I think I've asked you this before, but have you ever delved into reading manga?
I mean, I'm basically caught up to the Chainsaw Man manga at this point. Okay. I read a bunch of Berserk. I'm not caught up with that. I read Ghost in the Shell. Mm-hmm. I read there was a second Dominion series by Masamune Shirow called like No Time to Panic or something like that I read a little bit of because Dark Horse is publishing it. I never finished that though. So really it's just a handful of manga that I've actually... But the problem is, like, I read Attack on Titan and got caught up after the first season, and then I never went back to it. So it's always up, back and forth. I don't know. Animation quality is superb. I really, really liked the latest episode. Was a very
intensely emotional episode.
It was shockingly, it was surprisingly emotional and heartstring tugging and really well done. Which I remember I turned it on Saturday or Sunday because that was when the episode came out, and I was just like, oh no, this is one of those episodes. I was like, what's going on with this guy, this new character that showed up at the end of last week? And then I was like, oh, I'm just depressed now.
Yeah.
So a really special episode. And that's what's fun about these shows is that when you get to like that special episode that kind of defines the season, and I felt like this might be that episode. So
it's right there at the like kind of like the halfway point, just a little bit past halfway point, but it might definitely be setting the tone for the remainder of the episodes. Yeah, some of the what was that? There was one scene that kind of creeped me out. Is that there was the what was it, like the creatures, the monsters that kind of have like this mouth that's sort of like a cigar cutter.
Yes.
And I was like creeped out by it because I'm just like, oh, there's just like slicing off people's limbs and stuff like that.
The scene involving those creatures, because I don't know anything about the manga, and part of me was thinking that it was going to go where it ended up going, but at the same time I was like, oh, is this that kind of show where things are going to turn into a drastically different series than I thought they were? Is that why the school is important to the story?
Yeah.
There was a moment where I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it didn't go that way.
Honestly. Yeah, and with the school, they're kind of slowly giving you more hints as to what the purpose of it is, where it's possibly even located, what the children are being taught and are there for and studied and such like that, which is kind of nice because they know that, it's only the first season, so they've got time to build up. If they're going off the manga, which, if you have a lot of source material to go off of and you have a backlog of it, that's great, because you don't want to run into the issue like they had with Naruto, where, they were still being written, but they have to do the episodes. So we're like filler season, or even more so Game of Thrones, where it's like, we're just going to make up the final 2 seasons because there's no actual books to go off of. Or they might have even had 3 seasons that they had to do that. So, take your time. If it's a good show and people enjoy it, they'll come back to it. But on the flip side, don't take forever to do more, because I think that's kind of what happened to Attack on Titan, where I enjoyed the first season of Attack on Titan and then there was a gap, and I was like, I became too interested or involved with something else that I know the whole thing's over with, but I honestly don't have a desire to have to come back, and which would inevitably be me having to rewatch the full first season and stuff like that. So it's, I'd rather go and spend the time rewatching Summertime Rendering because I really enjoyed it.
It'd be a good summertime show.
Hey.
I just really quick was looking at there are 8 volumes of the manga that have been released. Mm-hmm. They are basically, which have about 5-6 chapters included in each volume. They are basically through volume 4 already.
Oh, wow.
Volume 1, I'll put it this way. Volume 1 gets to Tomato Heaven, which I think is like episode 3.
That's, yeah, very quick.
So, anyhow.
So they can only really do 2 seasons off of what's already out.
I guess when did this manga start? Oh, this manga started in 2018.
It's very new. Very, very new.
Yeah, but still, you think about it, that's 5 years ago, 4 years ago? Almost 5 years ago.
5 years ago, yeah.
Anyhow, Alex, this isn't a final rating. This is a preemptive mid-season review. How many pots of gold would you give Heavenly Delusion, aka Tengoku Daimakyo?
Right now, I would give it a rating. I'm apologizing for my throat. I would give it a.
Sorry, I didn't mean. Sorry to interrupt.
The supercut episode, yeah.
I got there. Did you see there was a comment on that little clip?
Yeah, I know who that's from too. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so
yeah.
you know that person.
I know him. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
because I was gonna say. Alex told me to make that video. During last episode, Alex was like, you should make a little compilation of how many times I clear my throat on this, and which I used a little piece of during the episode. But then I put the whole 90 seconds of clips out. And then someone leaves a comment and is like, oh, you're going to give him a complex or whatever he said. And I was like, I'm the asshole now? You know how long it took me to cut that shit out?
Yeah, right now I would give it 3 pots of gold. Very, considering how they're adapting the storyline and the dialogue and everything like that and the plot. They're doing very good of, having the characters take their time to get to their destination. The quality of the animation is very good. You don't really see any issues with it, mostly because a lot of this is done now on computers, so there's not a lot of human error that they can't take care of. I'm enjoying this very slow burn for that school facility or something that those children are in. And also just, it's just a nice breath of fresh air just seeing logical, intelligent people trying to deal with stuff in a post-apocalyptic world. I'd also kind of say it was somewhat similar to sort of how in Fallout, in the Fallout series, that there's people similar to that where they have little settlements and then farms, and they're just trying to get by given the circumstances and such like that. Hopefully they'll get some more stuff with the monsters and such. But yeah, that'll still be, forthcoming, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with Alex, 3 Pots of Gold. Very cool, interesting story. Really original pieces to the story. Like, you've got the framework of sort of just the kind of cliche post-apocalypse, traveling place to place type stuff, but they kind of twisted it just enough that makes it new and original and fun. Really weird character stuff going on, which I enjoy. Confusing stuff. You got your mysteries and your intrigue and all of that fun plot stuff that's interesting to speculate about. And then like as specifically as Alex said, characters being just rational people is really fun to see in anime and in storytelling in general, because it makes it more difficult for the storyteller. Like when you have everyone acting rationally, there's no crutch of, like, people always say, well, if they did that, there'd be no movie. Well, okay, well, what if people did do that and they still had to have a movie? Like, if people acted rationally and they still had to tell an interesting story, then what does that look like? And so it's nice to see them.
Classic Star Trek. Good point. And Alex, how can people watch Heavenly Delusion? Right now, unless you want to sail the 7 seas,
I don't even know what that means, Alex.
I've heard it on the interwebs.
Okay, Linus says it.
Yeah. He's probably got, his server room's probably got so much stuff on there. Oh God. Right now you can watch it actually in the US on Hulu, with just a regular subscription, as far as I know, because I can pull it up on there. I don't know if there is a sub of it, but it might just be, dubbed.
I would expect it's only subtitled.
Yeah. My Hero Academia, well, they got both for that. Here we go. Tengoku Daimakyo. Yeah, they call it Tengoku Daimakyo on Hulu. They have, yeah, interesting. Or other than that, has it on there.
Stop it.
Sorry.
You dummy. But until next time, Alex, dearest of all my friends, would you please do me an honor and wrap up episode 414 of Culture Doom?
Thank you very much for everybody tuning in and enjoying Culture Doom episode 414. Sorry. On behalf of Brendan, this is Alex saying, please send any type of emails to contact@culturedoom.com. I'm just saying.
You sound so desperate.
Not desperate. No.
Please send any kind of email to contact@culturedoom.com.
Even old gifs of the banana dance and stuff. Anyways, until next time, double watching you.